I'm absolutely, delighted and honored here to be serving as moderator. I want to welcome you all to Gear Up Connecticut's presentation of a career panel with the Hartford Yard Goats. Good evening, everyone. My name is Benjamin Bro, and I serve as the program coordinator for Gear Up East Hartford. And I'm honored to be serving as moderator for tonight's event. I'm joined by the Yard Goats president, Team Restal, assistant general manager, Dean Zappalordi, and the executive director of the Hartford Yard Goats Foundation, Tiffany Young. They're here to share their stories and as we explore the diverse career possibilities encompassed by a single professional sports organization right here in our backyard, the Hartford Yard Goats. Let me start with some housekeeping. I want to get everybody introduced and get into it, but I want to let folks know that they can use the Q&A. The chat won't be on in this webinar, but the Q&A function will allow folks to ask questions. We're going to cover a lot of everyone's sort of story, how they came to be at the Yard Goats, their education, some of the skills they've used. So we'll have an opportunity to talk about lots of different things. But as questions come up, throw them in the Q&A. Christina LaPierre, our Gear Up State Director, is managing that, and she may be able to interject with relevant questions. We might have some time at the end to address those too. So don't be afraid to ask questions. We're going to record tonight. Want to be able to share with all the folks that may not have been able to be here tonight. But it's a webinar style, so folks don't have to be concerned about privacy or anything like that. So we're excited to be able to do this and offer it to our huge community in East Hartford, Meriden, Waterbury, and beyond as part of the Gear Up program and the career exploration that's such a core part of what Gear Up is. We're slated for about an hour tonight, and really excited to get into all of that. Let me tell you a little bit about Gear Up, and then we'll get going. Gear Up stands for Gaining Early Awareness and Readiness for Undergraduate Programs. It's a high-impact, comprehensive college and career readiness program that supports students and their families, starting in middle school, moving with them through high school, and into their first years of post-secondary success. It's a highly competitive federal grant program that helps empower local partnerships comprised of K-12 schools. East Hartford, Meriden, Waterbury school districts are a part of the Gear Up program this year. It's a 7-year grant, partnering schools, institutions of higher ed, state agencies, and community organizations like the Hartford Yard Goats, for example, with 3 goals: increasing the post-secondary expectations and readiness of students, improving high school graduation and post-secondary enrollment rates, and raising the knowledge of post-secondary options, preparation, and financing among students and families. Gear Up promotes academic rigor and engagement and supports social emotional learning. There's tutoring and other support services. The program facilitates STEM exploration, plans after school and summer enrichment opportunities. Long-term college and financial aid counseling is provided to students and families. Dual enrollment programs offer early college credit. Test prep and college admission support is part of it. And throughout, career exploration and education planning are central. And that's kind of what brings us to this opportunity to work with the Hartford Yard Goats and to introduce this career panel. Really excited to hear about all of the different jobs and responsibilities and roles that go into something as seemingly simple as a baseball team. So, on behalf of Gear Up, on behalf of the projects in East Hartford, Meriden, Waterbury, Gear Up CT, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Tiffany Young, Dean Zappalordi, and Tim Restal of the Hartford Yard Goats. Folks, if you would, introduce yourselves. Tiffany, if you don't mind, I'd start with you. Please give your name, your title, and kind of a description of what your role is at the Hartford Yard Goats.
Sure. My name is Tiffany Young. I'm the executive director for the Hartford Yard Goats Foundation. In that role, part of and the majority of my responsibility is building relationships within and throughout the community, developing partnerships and creating programs that service our community.
Thank you so much. Dean, please.
Yeah, my name is Dean Zappalordi. I'm the assistant general manager of operations at the Hartford Yard Goats. It's a little bit of a misnomer in the fact that, well, like many of us at the Yard Goats in the minor league baseball, we all wear a lot of hats. I entered into the Yard Goats in a sales capacity, and then kind of added operations as I got entrenched in the organization. But I sell sponsorships and hospitality for the Yard Goats at Dunkin' Donuts Park, and then I also oversee the operations department, so the general maintenance and upkeep for Dunkin' Donuts Park.
Very cool. Tim, please.
Yeah, and I'm Tim Restall. I'm the team president. Really, Dean and Tiffany make me look great. I don't do too much, but I'm just kidding. I oversee the entire organization. When we say the organization, there's all the different departments in it, from accounting to sales to ticket sales to marketing to PR to merchandise, all the different departments. And I don't see the over the day-to-day, but I see the big picture, and I look for the organization. I look forward and moving the organization. So looking at things that we can align ourselves with, whether it's community partners or different thing, outside events at the ballpark, but really just overseeing the entire organization. So Benjamin and Christina, thank you guys so much for having us on tonight. When Tiffany had reached out about the program and I learned more about Gear Up CT, I said, absolutely would love to be part of it and share our stories and talk about the Hartford Yard Goats and where we came from and where we're going. So.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's, a cold email one night. I had, this wonderful idea. There's a Gear Up program in Massachusetts, works with the Boston Celtics. And I said, wow, the first thing I thought of when I came on board this summer, I was like, got to reach out to the Yard Goats and see about getting together. So it's so great to have you all here. Tim, give us, give us a picture of minor league baseball, its relation to the big leagues, the sort of history of the Hartford Yard Goats. That'd be great. Sort of set us off.
Yeah. So if you've never been to a Yard Goats game or you don't know anything about the Yard Goats, the Hartford Yard Goats is a double-A baseball team, meaning that we're a double-A level. Major League Baseball teams like the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Mets, the 30 major league teams that play baseball, they all have a quote-unquote farm system. A farm system is where all their players are playing, growing, developing, getting ready to make it to the major league. So we're a farm team. We're a double-A level. In minor league baseball, there's 4 levels. There's a triple-A, which is the highest level, a double-A, and then there's a low A, a high A, and a low A. So we're at double-A level of baseball. And so we're part of the Eastern League, which has 12 teams in it. We're an affiliated team, meaning we have a major league partner, which is the Colorado Rockies. And which, you think about Colorado Rockies in Connecticut doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's about development. So we play teams like the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Mets, the Phillies, the Giants. So it's really about the level of baseball that we play at and developing these players to become major league players. But that's a small part of what we do. We don't really do anything with the baseball side of it. We have everything else to do with the ballpark. So from the business side of selling tickets to merchandise to game production, all those things that go into a game at the ballpark at Dunkin' Donuts Park, we are involved in. And that's where you heard Dean talking about operations. You and Tiffany talk about our community programs, all the things that go around everything but the baseball. The baseball and minor league baseball is handled by the major league club. We take care of, I say, all the fun stuff. So we make sure that the hot dogs are hot and the Pepsi is cold. And, our mascots are on the concourse and, it's clean and all these, the ballpark's clean. So all those details that we look at making the Yard Goats experience when you come to the ballpark the best it can be. And really that's a big part of it. The Yard Goats have been around now. We're going into our 6th season.
Tim, forgive me. Let me interrupt you. Forgive me. Do you have to sort of earn a team? The sort of quality of your management, the experience that you put together around baseball, does that sort of earn you a farm team to sort of support?
So you maintain a team. So our ownership owns a AA franchise. So we now have a AA franchise. And so what we do at the ballpark with regards to taking care of the baseball and taking care of the fan experience is a big part of what we do. So it's so if that answers your question, like we're a AA franchise.
Cool. Please, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's a good question. Feel free to stop anytime. So the Yard Goats. So back in 2015, prior to the Yard Goats, we were called there was this baseball team that was in New Britain called the New Britain Rockcats. And again, it was a AA baseball team. And then in 2015, it announced the franchise was moving to Hartford. The team went to relocate in 2016. They had to play the entire season on the road. And so we opened up in 2017 and we played 3 seasons so far. Last year, we didn't play baseball because of COVID. And we're going into our 6th season. So we're very, very fortunate to have a great facility at Dunkin' Donuts Park, a great community that really supports us in many, many ways, from coming out to the ballpark to our merchandise to our community programs. So it's so that's a little bit about how the Yard Goats came to Hartford.
Very cool. How did the Yard Goats name come to be?
Gotcha. And I don't want to do all the talking. So Dean and Tiffany, if I'm going off the rails or whatever the case is, feel free to jump in. So we did a name the team contest. And part of the relocation is that we determined that Hartford needed its own identity, the baseball.
Yeah.
And so we did a name the team contest, and we had 6,000 names that came in. Some of them I can't say on the Zoom because they're not polite, but other great names. And what we did is we whittled them down to about the top 10. And these are all names that when you hear, they're unique names, right? So it's the Hartford Hedgehogs, the Hartford Whirlybirds, the Hartford Praying Mantis, the Hartford River Hogs, the Hartford Hound Dogs. So all these names were coming in, and we took the top 10 and of course the Hartford Yard Goats. And so we took the top 10 names, and then we had voting, and we brought it down to 5. And then eventually we picked the Yard Goats was chosen, and we've been the Hartford Yard Goats since 2016.
That's awesome.
Tim, I have a question for you.
Please.
Sorry, Ben, I don't mean to steal your thunder.
No. This is your show.
What does a Yard Goat have to do with Hartford?
So it's a great question. So if those don't know what a Yard Goat is a small train that works in the train yard, getting all the cars in line. So like if you think of a normal train, an engine is larger. These are smaller engines that are designed for getting cars in line in the train yard. And so a Yard Goat. And so when the name came in, it was interesting because yard ties to baseball, right? Baseball, you're at the yard, the baseball player is going to go yard and such. And then you have goat, which is, who doesn't love a goat, right? You have screaming goats, you have fainting goats, you have, goat cheese, you have like goat soap, like all these fun goat puns, whatever the case, screaming goats. So the part of it, and then we said, you know what, it in a yard, in the submission, the person that submitted the name said that, in paying homage to Hartford's rich train history, which was like, that's what opened our eyes. And then obviously when you look at our logo, it's a goat with a baseball bat in its mouth. So that's what a Yard Goat is, which has absolutely nothing to do with what we do, but we're very proud of the goat and what it means.
That's awesome. Dean, what does a general manager do? So both you and Tim had alluded a bit to some of the business divisions, but walk me through all of at full sale, how many employees are among the Hartford Yard Goats team?
It depends on the time of year, and as we all know, right now we're kind of in unprecedented times. But under normal circumstances, we've got some 30-odd employees. And then when we're in season, and if you count the number of seasonal game day employees we have, you can add another 200 plus. But full-time front office is in the 30-something range, and then we have a very robust associate program. Some people may call them internship programs.
Mhm.
So that can add another 12 to 18 young aspiring students that want to get into our business. But to answer your question about what a GM does, Tim alluded to it earlier. The general manager's positions in minor league baseball are strictly about the business of baseball. Any of the player personnel moves are handled by the parent club. So a general manager in minor league baseball has nothing to do with the prospects or the player's ability or quality of the playing on the field. As Tim alluded to, it's making sure the hot dogs are hot and the Pepsi is cold and the concourse is clean and it's a safe facility, and making sure that we take care of the unruly goats in the goat pen so they don't bite any little kids, and just really giving a good value and some nice family entertainment for our fans. We have a great group, core of people that do a fantastic job to make sure that that's what we do. And that's why our attendance has broken records and we lead the league, year in and year out, because we have great attention to detail on all those aspects.
Give me some numbers. How many average? How many fans are coming to every game? I've been vaguely aware that you really strong attendance numbers. That's terrific.
We have 6,000 hard seats at the ballpark, and
That's a lot.
in the room only we have a capacity of about 6,700 people, and we're very close to that number. I mean, we're averaging around over 6,000, and as you probably would understand, April baseball is sometimes a hard sell. The weather has not been great the last few years in April, and it seems like that it's almost like the seasons are shifting a little bit. But once the kids are out of school, we're selling out every game.
That's awesome.
So I don't know what this year's going to hold. There's a lot of questions to be answered, but under normal circumstances, once the kids are out of school and the weather is predictable and good and warm, people are coming out to the ballpark.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Tiffany, what does a foundation do? And why would the Hartford Yard Goats have one?
Okay, great question. What does the foundation do and why would the Hartford Yard Goats have one? I'll start with why the Hartford Yard Goats would have one. Well, it's important for any business to also have a foundation side or a nonprofit side where it actually gives back to the same community that pours into them, whether it's through sales and sponsorships and things of that sort. As far as what the foundation does, there's many aspects, of course, to the foundation. The foundation actually sponsors our community programs, our youth programs, which are free to students. And they usually service students from about 8th grade through high school. And there's many different programs, as you saw in the video, from culinary arts to leadership programs, to theater arts programs, fitness programs, just to name a few. There's a suite of many programs, but the foundation works so that these students, young people, and community members who attend these programs are actually able to attend these programs free of charge. So that's a big part of what the foundation does. The foundation also works to sponsor many community programs and organizations throughout the community that we know are doing great work in our city and in the surrounding cities as well. The foundation works to partner with many organizations for different initiatives throughout the city and throughout the state, certainly, if you will. So in gist, I would say that's a lot of what the foundation actually does. We have little to do with the baseball side of it, and we're probably most active in the off season, believe it or not. So our on season is when everybody else is either resting, and then our off season is when everybody is hustling at the ballpark. So that's vacation time for us.
Good time to take a break. Spend some time at the ballpark, having fun.
The first year, I say this, the first year when we have games, typically all our staff come on board and we work games. And I after the first year and looking at how the foundation has evolved and Tiffany has taken the leadership with that group, we said, Tiffany, you don't need to work games anymore because her game days are basically our off season. So as we were going home at 5 o'clock, Tiffany was still at the ballpark running our foundation and all our community programs. So we said, you know what, your season is now our off season on the baseball side. So
it's an amazing facility, and it has it's such a, what strikes me is that it's such a huge dynamic organization. I mean, I had an opportunity to visit the park just for a business meeting. I used to work at Manchester Community College's financial aid office and enrollment services, and all the financial aid officers had gathered together in the state. And they held their annual meeting at the park, and it was like living large. I mean, you had this sort of suite overlooking the park. We took some pictures. It was a fantastic experience. I thought it was luxury box. It was really cool. It was a beautiful thing. The food was terrific, and it was just a cool realization that your organization is so much more than baseball, though obviously that's it's sort of core and tons of fun.
You know what, one of the things, Ben, just so I sorry to cut you off, but the part of it is that we always say baseball is the hook. Baseball is what brings people in, but we use this ballpark for so much more with our community programs, with our event, outside events like you're talking about that you guys had, or we've done this past week or last week, the Red Cross utilized the ballpark for a blood drive. So they were in need of a space. We have the space available. So we partner with different community organizations to use the ballpark for more than just baseball. Even though we always say baseball is the hook, there's other things going on the ballpark. And that prior to COVID, we probably had 175 different events a year, not including the 70 baseball games that we had. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. So take me through a typical day, Tim. What is, getting up as president of the Yard Goats look like? And
so really it depends, a typical day, as we're in the season is, we equate like the ballpark getting ready for guests, right? So the same thing, if you're going to have, friends over your house, you want to make sure the place is clean, it's presentable. And really that's a big part of what we do. So making sure the facility is ready for guests to come in. The other part is that there's a lot of things that go into the ballpark, from food and beverage operations to merchandise to all the on-field entertainment that goes on in between the innings. So if you don't know, in baseball, we play 9 innings of baseball. And so from the time that the gates open to the time the last pitch is thrown, we have orchestrated many different events that are going on, whether it's a PA announcement, whether it's a mascot race, whether it's shooting T-shirts in the stands. So we orchestrate every minute, basically, from the time when the gates open and fans come in to the last pitch. And then
fireworks at the end.
Fireworks at the end, absolutely. So as for our staff, we have a game day meeting every day that goes over all the details, from the name of the dance group that's performing on the field, to who's singing the national anthem, to who's throwing out first pitches. So there's probably hundreds and hundreds of details that go into a game. And then what we do is we sit down as a staff and then we go over that and what the game looks like and what we're going to do, because really part of the game is it's the Yard Goats entertainment experience. So making sure that all the things that we're doing, everyone is on the same page for. So when the gates are open, we know that Dean is going to be taking care of this, and that it's, he's going to be at this location, and that his responsibilities are this. We know who's going to throw out a first pitch and what time they need to be where to get the first pitch. So there's a lot of detail that go into it, and there's a lot of coordination of different departments. So from the video board room, knowing to put up what names for the birthday announcements, to making sure we understand that it's a promotion and make sure that we have all the bobbleheads up at the gate. There's hundreds of pieces of detail that go into a game.
Wow. So how did you tell me a little bit about your career path?
So in high school, I ended up working at an amusement park very similar to lake compounds up in New Hampshire called Canopy Lake Park. And I started working at a fry dough stand and just worked there in the summertime. It was a great summer job. And I ended up the next year going, I was a freshman. I ended up going back as a sophomore and a junior, and it was a summer job. And I loved it. I loved working at the amusement park. It was fun. It was hard work, but it was fun. And I really understood the business of food and beverage. Like I understood the ordering and the processing, and how to make sure that you're planning accordingly for the day and scheduling the staff and everything. So I had worked all my way up through high school and college to, I was literally, when I was done with college, I was the number 2 person at an amusement park that oversaw the food and beverage. So all my way up to assistant general manager. And I said, you know what? The general manager in front of me had been there for 10 years and wasn't going anywhere. And I said, you know what? I really want to keep growing. And then at that time, I saw an ad in an industry magazine for a position at the West Michigan Whitecaps in Grand Rapids, Michigan, to oversee their food and beverage. So I wrote my cover letter. I sent my resume out. This is prior to email. That's how old it was. And literally had submitted my information. They called me. I flew out to Michigan and ended up moving to Michigan for 4 years to run the food and beverage at the West Michigan Whitecaps. I ended up coming back to New England. I did different positions at different organizations, from food and beverage to corporate sales, and just eventually worked my way up to general manager and then team president. So, starting in high school, from working at an amusement park to also working at McDonald's while I was in high school. So getting the fast food background, then taking that and applying it as I went to amusement parks and then to ballparks, and then eventually segueing from the food and beverage side to the business operations side, and then eventually general manager. It was a unique career path that I was able to take.
What are some of the key sort of skills? I mean, some pieces of your education that you've sort of been able to, sort of apply as you made those transitions, as you tried to sort of, sort of broaden your horizons and grow out of that sort of original trajectory.
Yeah, I went to school for accounting, and after the first year, I transferred out of it because it wasn't for me. But I used my accounting information all the time. Numbers is a big part of my business and what we do. Also, as doing other things, learning about, I learned about marketing as I went. So understanding how it works, always listening. I mean, that was a big part of, I always surrounded myself with people that I could learn from, because if they could do it well, then I can learn from it, and I can, that'll give me another asset as I start building myself. So I've been able to, delegate, learn learn different parts of the business, and be able to, that part that I didn't understand, hire people like Tiffany and Dean, to be able to surround myself with good people. It's one of the big things that I've done.
That's awesome. Tiffany, you may not have been on the sort of trajectory where executive director of the foundation wasn't necessarily what you thought you were going to be doing out of high school. Is that true? Or I don't mean to put words in your mouth. Please tell us a little bit about your path.
No, absolutely not out of high school. No, so interesting enough, most people would assume that I knew a bunch about baseball and had this great enthusiasm about baseball, but that is the exact opposite. If we're going all the way back to high school, I don't even know that we want to go back that far, but no, definitely, no. I was on the first train out of Connecticut, out of high school, ready to go to college. But my background, yes, my background was actually in theater arts, and that's what I ended up getting my undergraduate degree in. So no, I certainly had no idea that I would end up at a minor league baseball team. But one of the things I often talk about when I do public speaking is transferable skills, because I believe that my background in theater arts truly is what prepared me for some of the successes that I've had in this position, especially when it comes to public speaking, and being able to use those skills in order to effectively communicate to the public, and also build relationships as well. I think communication is certainly important in building relationships as well. And it also helped me with rejection. I think, when you're dealing in the performing arts, you also have to be prepared, for rejection as well. But I attribute much, or if not most and all of my public speaking to my theater arts background. And it also gave me an edge in being able to think outside the box. Here's this young lady with this theater arts background coming to baseball. The question is, what is she going to do here and why? And I felt a little bit of that tension also, when I got there, but it was an opportunity to really think outside the box because I was not coming from a sports management background. And when it came to programming, I had different eyes on it. So it actually became an opportunity. And we were able to build a suite of over 10 programs, with that out of the box thinking, if you will. So, and I like to say this to young people, I think oftentimes, we have in our mind what we're going to do for the rest of our life, and we go to school and we major in this, or we think we're going to be this when we grow up. And I think that's amazing when someone's that focused in life that they're able to do that. But most of the time, life takes a different turn, and it's really about using whatever foundational skills that you have and being able to transfer them to wherever you are in your life at that current time.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, I was going to sort of pop in with Tim's remark about accounting. When the reality is, you're more likely than not to change your major, but you're always going to remember that one random class you took because it taught you something that you sort of applied. My uncle likes to tell stories, and this is one he's told multiple times. I mean, he insists all business folks should be taking an improv class, a theater class, because the performance, the communication piece is so vital to what you're doing. I think it's a great point to emphasize, to realize that, I'm not sure a straight line exists. It's sort of only a theoretical thing. You have to you're going to have to sort of zigzag, sort of up the ladder from point A to point B.
You have to make it work.
Dean, what's the best part of your job?
Well, now that I'm in, I've added operations over the last couple of years as one of my focal points. I've really come out of my comfort zone because prior to that, I was strictly in sales. So before I even decided, and found out what I wanted to do, which wasn't until my early 30s, that I knew I wanted to get involved in sports and entertainment. But my first foray into that was through sales. And I think that's really where most opportunities lie to get a job in sports. is primarily through sales, and more specifically, ticket sales. And I'm kind of segueing a little bit or off topic, and I'll get back to topic, but you know, sales may not be for everyone, but if you want to get into sports, you'll find that that's where the most opportunity is going to be. And once you're in sports, you can go anywhere from there. But to get your foot in the door, that's probably the largest opportunities through sales. But getting back to the best part of my day are the challenges, and just because I'm relatively new to facilities management and operations, it's learning new things every day related to facilities. And I still sell, I still have that hat, but the operations is really a newer part of my skill set and where I have the most to learn. And so I relish that. You know, I love to be challenged. If I was still just in sales and only sales, I think it would get stale for me. So when Tim had the wisdom to give me some more responsibilities, I think it really re-energized me. Having been in this business for 23 years now, I think that adding operations to my plate really kind of kept me motivated and reinvigorated. You know, at my old age, it just kept the juices flowing.
What's the craziest thing that's happened on game day?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, let's start with you.
Dean, be careful. It's being recorded.
This organization
version
was in New Britain, and it was the last series or even the last game. And we had a promotion where we had a fire truck on the field. And let's just say the ground wasn't as hard as we thought it was. And we had to do some fancy footwork to get the field ready to play. It turned out to be a blessing because the line was down the block, around the corner, and through Main Street. And so it just so happened that by the time we got everything ready, we just got everybody in the ballpark. So the fact that we had that delay served us well that night. But I would say getting a fire truck stuck out on the field.
Ben, and he said it very, very eloquently, but the fire truck couldn't make the turn back onto the field, which is the professional playing grass, turned its wheels so that a bunch of grass came up. And, you know, even though we might say we're not involved in the baseball side of it, these are professional athletes. So they are trying to become major league players. So the field is again, another part of our department that we oversee, is really a very important part of our business because they play baseball. So that was one of the craziest things he's definitely I've been part of. We've had the field lights go out during a game. That was probably one of the craziest things that's happened on a game day for me, where the lights shut off during our soft opening when we opened up Hartford. So it was University of Hartford was playing Quinnipiac, and the lights went off exactly at 10 o'clock, which we come to find out that when you turn the lights on, it automatically sets a default time for 10 p.m., which we didn't know until we did it one time. So that's probably one of the crazier things that's happened to me.
Tim, sorry, this is Christina. Tim, really quick, we have a question from the gallery. So when did you begin to like baseball?
So I grew up playing Little League, being a Red Sox fan. I'm originally from New Hampshire, so I was a Red Sox fan, and just watching baseball, being part of it, all the way through middle school. And I didn't play in high school, but I was always a fan of watching baseball, and then really didn't think about working in baseball until the opportunity came, and didn't think about it like, love baseball. Like, I like baseball. I enjoy watching baseball. I don't love baseball. Like, I don't like follow every statistics or anything like that.
Love it like Tiffany does.
Exactly. And a lot of people will say that. Tiffany and I were on the Zoom the other day, and someone said, I have to be honest with you, I don't like baseball. It's like, it's okay. Like, I understand. Like, for us, I always say we're lucky to work in a kid's sport is really what it comes down to. And even though it's more than a kid's sport, what we do and how we make an impact, it has very little to do with the baseball, and it has everything else to do with our community programs, the ballpark, the jobs that we create, the experiences for the fans. Those are a big piece. So I didn't realize that I could work in baseball until literally I saw the application or the job posting for the team in West Michigan, because I had never seen that. I was always, working at my job at the amusement park. And then all of a sudden I said, oh, I love I love baseball. I can look at working in baseball. So that's how it really segued from there.
One of the things adjunct instructor at Manchester Community College, and I've taught the first year experience, and some of the things we do there and some of the things that my students as they progress will do in East Hartford is, looking at job descriptions, the postings that sort of come up that catch your eye, that sort of you happen upon. You start to look at them, you realize, oh, that sounds like fun. And you start to think about the, sort of the skills and the experience you can apply. And you sort of give it a shot. You write that cover letter and you see what happens. And you never sort of know where it's going to take you. And that's just part of the fun, I think.
Absolutely. Ben and Dean had mentioned it earlier, and sort of like the fun piece, right? So Dean had mentioned the sales piece. And when I talk to, oftentimes college students will do an informal interview and talk, and they'll say, what's the one thing I can do? And I'm like, if you learn sales, that is probably the most valuable tool that you'll learn, because like Dean had mentioned, in sports, there's a lot of sales positions. There's a lot of other positions too. We have accounting, we have marketing, we have video production, creative services, HR, accounting, all these different departments, because it is a small business, and we have a lot of different operations, food and beverage. There's so many different positions, but the sales piece is a big part of what we do. And I say it's the equivalent of learning to hit a baseball, right? The first time you swing the bat, you're going to miss, but the more swings of the bat as you learn it, because sales is a game, and we use sales all the time. We use sales when we're trying to convince our parents that we want to stay up late, or we're trying to convince, our friend to go out, like whatever the case it is, whether you're trying to buy a car, sales is such a big part of what you learn that I often say that is a great tool that can go to every different job you have, whether you're trying to get a raise for yourself, or you're trying to get a new job, or whatever the case it is, sales is a big part of it.
That's a great point. So who have been your role models, your mentors in all of this? Tiffany, if you don't mind, can I start with you?
Sure. Who has been my role model or mentor? So that's always a trick-up question for me. And the reason I say that, I have some amazing mentors and some amazing role models as women, especially women of color in my life, who have been very influential. However, even in his death, my dad, I would have to say, has been my biggest role model. There's things that he has said to me years ago that did not resonate with me until my adulthood and until I started in the profession of community engagement. But oftentimes it's really the things that I saw him do in his role in the community that has mentored me along the way, even in his absence. And he's passed about 12 years now. But I still attribute, and I talk about this publicly as well, he has and still is my biggest role model. and my biggest influence and mentor. And coincidentally, one of my mentors now used to actually be his mentor. So, you know, you
That's
talk,
awesome.
yeah.
It goes around.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, you know, I'm blessed, and I'm certainly proud to certainly be able to say that about my father, who's no longer even here, but he was a great influence on me and still is.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Dean, who's sort of been your role model, and what sort of advice would you give? And
Well, I mean, in the field of sports and entertainment, I mean, I didn't find myself into this industry until I think I was 32. So by that time, I was a pretty fully developed adult. So I don't know that I can pick a mentor that I've had in this field. But, you know, as regards to advice I would give somebody, um, you know, I really had some clarity about this in this last year with what's been going on with COVID. And like many organizations, we've had to make some really tough decisions in the lean times about who we're able to keep, right? Because, I mean, our business for the short term, like many, has been devastated. So we're operating now on a skeleton crew, and that will grow. But unfortunately, we've had to let some people go. So the advice that's really I've gotten some clarity on as of late is I tell people under any circumstances, but it's most relevant now, like, be a sponge, ask questions, come out of your comfort zone. And we've had a real life example within our organization is, unfortunately, we had to pare down our operations department, and we all were in agreement to keep a younger, more junior person with less real life experience in our business. But it was specifically because that person was that sponge. That person asked for more responsibility. They wanted to learn other departments. Even though he was strictly in operations, he was inquisitive and curious about sponsorships and all manner of things. So when we had to make the tough decision, we all recognized his ability and interest and eagerness in broadening his horizons. And so my advice to people, whether it's in sports or anywhere else, is be that sponge, make those relationships. I will tell you for myself, I'm born and bred in Connecticut, and have chosen to stay in Connecticut. So I've worked for various sports and entertainment organizations in Connecticut. And that's a choice I've made. But I can tell you that I've had many opportunities to move on to NHL organizations and NBA organizations because of the relationships and the impressions that I made with people when I was working at the XL Center or Mohegan Sun or Live Nation. So if you take care of business wherever you find yourself, and you act accordingly, and you be that sponge, and you are inquisitive and try to pick people's brains, you'll get recognized. And when those people that you work with move on to various locations and other teams or what have you, they'll remember you. They'll come calling. I don't think I've ever really had a job that I've gotten that I had to apply and interview cold. It's always been somebody that's referred me because they did business with me a year ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And so I had a warm opening, a warm lead, let's say, into that position. Now, what I made of it, what I did with it, was up to me. But at least, I had 5 interviews with Tim before I got the job here. But somebody that I worked with at an ad agency worked with Tim and dropped my name in Tim's lap. And so that's how I ended up getting the job at the Yard Goats. But anyway, that's a long-winded way, but that's the advice that I would give.
I think that's great advice. I've always, I stay curious is sort of the one thing I try to sort of, if the school's been rough the last year, there's so many challenges, but trying to ask why, staying curious, staying engaged, kind of drives you forward to learn more. It's just the great quality.
People, if you stay in your lane, if you don't ask questions, you won't stick out. You won't be memorable. You need to really do those things to differentiate yourself. We have upwards of 18 students in our associates program, our internship program, and it's easy to get lost in the shuffle unless, you do some of the things that I referenced.
Tim, what would you say to our students to encourage them about their future? What advice to give?
Yeah. I always say be unreasonable. The part of it is that, you have a choice every day. When it's time to get up, you can either get up or you can stay in bed. And that choice will really define the rest of the day. And, always be present. When you were talking about people that made an impact in your life, I always remember my dad when he would talk to, whether it was a president of a company or whether it was the person sweeping the floor, he was always present and he always listened. And that is such a big thing that a lot of people will not apply. Like they'll not make an impact with someone because they don't think of their position or anything like that. So you're always listening, you're always being present so that you can hear those things. And then I always say be unreasonable. When someone says that, get back to me in 48 hours, you get back to them in an hour. So always go above and beyond the expectations, because that's what separates you from the competition. Taking, whether you're an athlete and you're shooting basketball to applying to a job, it's going to take practice. It's going to take, skill. It's going to take determination to get it. And those things are, you have to go out there and do it for yourself.
I'm trying to think. Folks, I'm so grateful for your time spending with us, sharing us a little bit about, what the Yard Goats are about. It's pretty clear. It's Tim, to your point, baseball's the hook, and obviously it's sort of the occasion to come together, but what you do with it matters. It depends on the people and all the different ways you can get involved, and it's really fantastic. I'm so grateful for you taking the time to help us see how far that sort of stretches and how, all the good work that's out there to do. I'm inclined to sort of wind us down. It's about an hour now. And so on behalf of, Gear Up Connecticut, on behalf of East Hartford and Meriden and the kids at Waterbury, I just want to say thank you. And I'm sure our paths will cross again, and but to figure out, State Director Christina, we should figure out how to get folks out to the ballpark at some point, hopefully this summer, if not sooner than later. So folks, thank you so much.
Guys, thanks so much for having us on. Greatly appreciate it. And whatever we can do to help, obviously we're here, we're not going anywhere, and the community is a big part of what we do. So anytime you need us to do anything like this or have informal conversations with students, we're in. So
that's awesome. Tiffany, Dean, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So grateful.
Have a good evening, everybody.
You too. To the folks still on the call, thank you so much. Back at it again tomorrow. With that, take care. Have a good night.